Hi, I'm Todd Henderson. Today I want to show you how to install the Steelcraft STX300 series running boards. Now this application is going to fit from 2001 to 2016 on GM full-size crew cabs with gasoline or diesel engines. It'll also fit the 2017 gas motor. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're starting on the driver's side. We're just behind the front tire. We're going to follow our rocker panel back. We're going to come across a tab with a hole above that tab. Now that tab's got a hole in it. On this truck, I've got a welded nut. On some of your older trucks, there is no welded nut. And so if you do not have a welded nut, you're going to want to take one of these U-nuts or clip nuts and slide that over top of the tab so you can have threads up above that tab. Since I have the threads up above that tab with the weld nut on there, I'm going to go ahead and take my bracket. Now all of my brackets on the driver's side are the same, so I'm going to hold that up into place. I've got in my kit, I've got a hex bolt with a lock washer and flat washer that fit on the hex bolt. If you grab a T-bolt out of your kit, you got the wrong bolt. The hex bolt is what's going to fit up in here. So we're going to run that up through the bottom of the bracket and up into that welded nut. We're just going to get that started in there and finger tight for right now. Once we've got that in there, now we're going to take another hex bolt with lock washer and flat washer, and we're going to go ahead and line that up to the threaded hole that's in the rocker panel. We're going to get that also in there nice and finger tight for right now. All right, now as we come down our rocker panel, we're going to pass by another bracket location. We're actually going to skip that location because we're in a crew cab. So we're coming back to our next location where we've got a hole up in the rocker panel and a hole down here in the pinch weld. This is where our next bracket is going to go. But right now, before we can put that bracket in place, we actually have to install a riv nut into this location here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our riv nut tool. So the way that works is we've got the tool looks like this. We've got a flat washer and we've got the riv nut that goes on this side here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a bolt, go through the washer, through the riv nut tool, and then we're going to thread the riv nut onto that bolt. All right, once we get that all the way tightened down onto the tool, we're going to take and insert the riv nut down into the rocker panel. Now it's very important, we're going to start tightening this down. You want to make sure that this stays as flat as possible. You don't want to tighten it down at an angle, you want to tighten it down nice and flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a 13 millimeter and we're just going to start turning on that. And what that does is that compresses that riv nut and it tightens down around that hole that we're going into. All right, once we've got that riv nut crushed in place, we're going to go ahead and back the bolt back out. And that's a properly inserted riv nut. Next on the tab down below, we're going to go ahead and put our threads above that hole. So we're just going to slide the clip nut in place. Next we're going to take our bracket, line that up. We're going to run a hex bolt with lock washer and flat washer up through our clip nut. There we go. And now into our new riv nut, we're going to install hex bolt, lock washer, and flat washer. We're going to get both of these also finger tight. All right, next we're going to go down our rocker panel. We're going to come to our very last bracket location. We're going to have a tab here with a hole in it. Above that is going to be a hole in the rocker panel. If next to your rocker panel you have a plug like this one, we're going to remove that plug and that's going to expose a larger hole next to your small hole. We're going to take one of our clip nuts. We're going to slide it with the threads to the inside of the rocker panel. We're going to slide it into the rocker panel, through the large hole, and center it over top of the smaller hole. And then this tab, we're going to slide a nut over top of that as well, one of our clip nuts. Next, we're going to take our bracket, we'll line that up, just like so. From underneath, we're going to use a hex bolt, lock washer and flat washer. Put that on finger tight. Then another hex bolt, lock washer, and flat washer into our other clip nut up top. Put those both in finger tight. All right, so now here I've got the driver's side board. I'm going to go ahead and turn this upside down. Underneath here, we're going to see a couple of channels that run the whole length of the board. In your kit, you're going to have some T-shaped bolts. Those are going to slide into those channels. So you're going to put 3 into this channel here, and then 3 into this channel, and you've got a little area that's been machined out where the bolt head can drop through. What I typically like to do is I'll just kind of take these bolts and spread them out a little bit in the running board. All right, so now I'm lifting the board up. I'm going to set it onto the brackets, just like so. Now you're going to notice these the grooves are going to line up to the oval holes in the brackets. So what we need to do is we need to bring those grooves over, the bolts over to the holes in the brackets and drop them down. Each one of the brackets needs to have 2 bolts dropping down through it. All right, now for each one of these bolts is dropping down through the bracket, we're going to take one of our smaller flat washers along with a smaller lock washer and then a small nut, and we're going to just kind of get those set in place. We're going to do that on each one of the bolts. Now we're not going to tighten them down at this time. We're going to just get them just a little bit snug, not even tightened down with the lock washer. So we went ahead and installed all 6 of our flat washer, lock washer, and nuts to the brackets. We also went ahead and centered the board side to side on the brackets and pushed the board all the way into the truck. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take a 10mm and we're going to tighten down all the nuts on the brackets. We don't want to over tight these. We just want to get them nice and snug. Now we've got all 6 of our nuts tightened down to where the brackets are now tightened down to the boards. We need to take a 13mm and tighten the brackets to the body of the truck. We're going to do that on all of our brackets. All right, now on the passenger side, everything is going to be exactly the same except for the very front bracket. Now, if you have a DEF tank from 2011 forward, you're actually going to have to lower that DEF tank to get to this spot right here. Now, this one doesn't have a DEF tank, so I'm just going to go straight into it. This is a 2-piece bracket, so what you're going to have is you're going to have the top piece that goes on top of this weld nut. So you've got the U shape right here where you're going to have your top bolt go through, and this is where your bottom bolt goes through. If you do not have a weld nut in this location, no problem. What you're going to use is this bolt plate to go down through that hole. If you use the bolt plate, you're also going to use a flat washer with a nylock nut that's included in your kit. We don't have that, so we're just going to go ahead and move forward. We've got our hex bolt with lock washer and flat washer. We're going to go right into the threaded hole in the rocker panel. And we're going to get that in there finger tight. And we're holding the bracket just kind of still at this point in time right over top of this location. All right, now we've got the bottom portion of our bracket. If you hold it sideways, you're going to notice there's a little opening right here. what that's going to do is that's going to allow this to slide over top of here, and your pinch weld is going to slide into that opening. That's also going to allow this hole to line up with a hole on the bottom. So we're going to slide that in just like so. We're going to take a hex bolt with a flat washer and lock washer, run that up into your weld nut. All right, now once we've got this hex bolt, lock washer, and flat washer started through the weld nut, we're also going to use another hex bolt, lock washer, and flat washer. We're going to come through the side because there is actually a threaded nut on the inside of the bracket that we just attached to the top. We're going to thread that in place. We're going to get both of these finger tight, or at least to where everything's kind of connected in place. Might need to use a ratchet just to get it up in place, but we don't want to tighten it down all the way at this time. And that's what it should look like for right now. We want everything to be nice and loose because we want to be able to adjust our board in place. And then once our board's in place, we'll lock everything down with our 13mm. Well, that concludes the installation. If you have any questions, call the experts. We're here to help you out.